Rock and roll? Cool, thank you. Huge shout out to Commit Your Code for bringing me back. This is an amazing event. We had an amazing event last year. I don't want to get too much into that, so if you see anybody here that is working, volunteering, make sure you give them a dap, give them a hug if they want you to give them a hug, whatever the case may be. Huge shout out to the developer community. Developer community is my lifeblood. I love the developer community. So if you're on Twitter or Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and you're tweeting about this event, make sure that you're tagging the event, but also throw this hashtag on there too. Hashtag developer community. This is the official hashtag for the event, CYC 2025. So make sure you're tagging the event too. We like to see the engagement. We like to see what people are doing, what people are saying. There's also show notes that are available for this talk afterwards. And then the video will be up once I get it edited. So you can scan this if you want to. It's got resources for everything that's in this talk. It has the slides, so you're good to go. And this will be on the, we can get this scanned later too if you want to. So my name's Chris. You can catch me on Twitter at @SaltandBurnham. If you are a Supernatural fan, you'll understand that reference. I'm also on Blue Sky, ChrisDemars.net. I work at a company called TuxCare. If you've seen our booth, it's all the way down at the backside there. We got some awesome stuff over there. Some pretty cool swag. We do end-of-life solutions for open source. So whether you're running old Linux systems, languages, .NET, AngularJS with your front-end ecosystem, we provide solutions to help with that for your end-of-life support for security vulnerabilities. I am also really big into Bigfoot, ghosts, and UFOs. So if you're into any of that stuff, definitely we can have a side conversation, but that would be awesome. And who's seen me give a talk before? All right, so y'all know what you're in for. Cool. Some of you don't, which is perfect because you're newbies. This is the talk, Know Your JS, SBOMs for front-end devs, or the other talk, the men in black know what's in your JavaScript and how to fix it. Now, this is a trigger warning. If you're not into aliens and UFOs and UAPs, well, there's 2 exits. You can leave. It won't bother me at all.
What's a UAP?
Unidentified aerial phenomena. We don't call them UFOs anymore. So, question, what is this? And I don't need an answer. What does this have to do with this? And you might be thinking to yourself, I don't really know. UFOs, code, sort of has to do something like this. And if you understand this reference, then you'll understand why this happened. It's unexplainable. It's unexplainable. But I can assure you that the truth is out there, okay? So how many dependencies does your average JavaScript app have? Do you really know? Is there a way to know? There is a way to know. You can run npm ls, right? And when you run npm ls, that'll give you a list of your direct dependencies that are in your dependency tree, that are in your package, in your node modules. That's a small list, not too big, right? Now, why wouldn't you list all of them? Well, that's another great question. That behavior will flood your terminal, especially if you have a lot of stuff that you're working with. But you can do it if you really want to, so you can see what all is installed. And there's a command for that. It's npm ls-all. This is running that command in the same project. Can everybody see this okay? Sweet. And you scroll up, and you keep scrolling, and you keep scrolling, because now you have direct dependencies, and you have your transitive dependencies. So there could be a lot of stuff in your application that you're building. And it doesn't matter whether it's Vue, React, Angular, right? A package JSON or a package lock or a yarn, it's all the same, right? Node modules is node modules. We all love node modules, right? But when we talk about these things, see, it just keeps going and going. It tells you all the deduped and this, that, and the other thing, and there's a lot there. But when we talk about these dependencies, we're talking about direct and transitive. I mentioned that prior, direct and transitive dependencies. So what a direct dependency is let's say you install next, right? That's the dependency is next. You know that's direct, that's what you're going to get, right? But then you also have transitive dependencies, and those are the ones we always don't keep our eyes on. Right? And you could sort of think of transitive dependencies like this. Does anybody know what this is? That's a face hugger. And so if you know the movies, the alien movies, you'll understand how this kind of relates to a transitive dependency. The env package is a transitive dependency of next. The only way you're going to be able to see that is if you go into your node modules and you click into your next project or your next module, and you look at that package JSON file, then you'll see the dependencies that came along with that. Now we know node modules just keeps going and going and going and going. So think about all of the packages that you don't see, because how many are searching through node modules on a daily? None of us. I don't give a shit what's in the node modules folder. I know if I have to, I'll RM, RF node modules and blow it away and do an NPMI again, but I don't care what's in there because someone way smarter than me is building that stuff. So how do I know? I don't know what I'm looking at. Variable names that are one letter, and I don't have time for it, right? But it's a good practice to be running security checks and stuff like that, so that's what we're going to get into. So let's take this for example. Let's say you want to install a UFO tracker, and it's an awesome project, but you can also build on top of the project. So what do? You run npm install UFO tracker thinking, man, this is going to be a badass package. I know what's going to happen. The data that's already there, they give you some starter data, it all came from these resources, Project Blue Book, the Roswell files, all of this cool stuff. The Hynek report, if you know who J. Allen Hynek is, all of that came from there. But then some weird stuff starts to happen. And then you go and you look in your node modules at this package, and then you see this package that's in there, MIB 1.3.4. Now the MIB is real, it's not just a movie. The Men in Black are real. So now you have this installed, and now they show up at your door. Now you're in some trouble, because they want to know what you're doing. Why are you installing this project? What UFO information do you have? Were you abducted? Did you have a sighting? Right? You got to be very, very careful. And the reason I bring that up is because there's a couple attacks that just recently happened, but this was one that happened too. React Native ARIA packages backdoored in a supply chain attack from GlueStack. Someone maliciously put some code in to an NPM package and really got GlueStack messed up. And GlueStack is like it's like a UI library framework, kind of like Shad and Tailwind. So it was maintained by GlueStack. The compromised packages included React Native ARIA Focus, which ARIA Focus is an accessibility component, utils, overlays, interactions, toggle, switch, checkbox, radio, button, menu, list box, tabs, combo box, disclosure, slider, and separator, as well as GlueStack UI utils. Well, all of this is important, and it all goes back to an SBOM. Has anybody heard of the term SBOM? Cool. No? That's awesome that you didn't, because you're going to learn about what an SBOM is. So an SBOM, oh, what the hell? There we go. An SBOM is a software bill of materials. So the way you can look at an SBOM is like a recipe for food, right? Or a packing slip or a flight manifest, right? It tells you everything that is in your application as far as your packages go. And it's not just in the JavaScript world. You can generate SBOMs in Java and .NET and everything. Anything that has packages that are installed, you can generate an SBOM to see what's in that. And they're machine readable, they're not human readable, and we'll get into that. But they're good for your team, they're good for your architecture team, your security team, your project managers, so you can see what's in there and make sure that you're staying secured up to date with all the new latest patches and releases. This was a great definition from Tahir. This is on Medium. An SBOM, or software bill of materials, is a detailed machine-readable list of all components within a piece of software, including dependencies, metadata, and relationships between components. But it's not just that either. It's people, right? It's the people that are building this software, people that are working on these projects. Everything has a tie-in in this piece of the pie we call software. So, why do we need it? Why do we need SBOMs? Why do we need to care about security? I lump security into the UX umbrella. If anybody's ever seen me give an accessibility talk, I kind of built a career around web accessibility and traveling around the world talking about web accessibility. And accessibility, security, and performance are always the last three things that matter at the end of the day, right? They're always put on the back burner until shit breaks, or you have a lawsuit on your hands, or someone can't use your website, or someone hacks your stuff, or somebody maliciously inserts something in an NPM package, you download it not knowing, and now you're in trouble, right? We need it for transparency. We need to know what is going on in our software. We need to know what vulnerabilities are out there. How can we patch those vulnerabilities? Are we sitting on a package that is misspelled improperly? And we'll get into that. And then disclosure, right? We want to know. This goes back to the UFOs and the UAPs. We need disclosure with that, just like we need disclosure with what's going on in our software. So I love this GIF right here. Does anybody remember this? Non-human biologics. This is kind of the disclosure that I'm talking about, the disclosure that we need. But it's really critical for two main things, right? It's critical for security. I will keep repeating it because security always takes the back burner, like I said, with accessibility and performance and compliance. There's so many different compliance standards out there now. Being secure also helps you be compliant. Because if you're pushing out software that isn't compliant, well, then you're going to have an even bigger problem on your hands. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of that and nipping it in the bud as quickly as possible. So when we talk about SBOMs, we got 6 types. You can Google the 6 types. I'm not going to describe every single one of them, but there's 6 of them. There's a design SBOM, there's a source SBOM, a build SBOM, an analyzed, a deployed, and a runtime SBOM. Now, if you want to Google what all these are, there's definitions anywhere you go for cybersecurity companies that tell you what these different SBOMs are and where they are in your project. One thing to keep in mind is an SBOM is not a lock file or a package file. It's not a yarn.lock, it's not a package lock, it's not a package JSON. It uses all of those components to generate the SBOM, but it's not an SBOM itself. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. On the front end, and this might be across the board, but on the front end we have a big problem. And I've been a victim of it, knock on wood. I haven't ran into any issues, but I'm sure all of us have done this at some point. Typo squatting. Typo squatting is a thing. Is anybody familiar with the term typo squatting? Cool. So one of these things is not like the other, right? I want to install Express. I know I need it for if I'm going to do something with APIs, I'm going to install Express. npm I Express. I'm not copying and pasting. I just know. Muscle memory, npm I Express. But you know what? I didn't install that one up there. I installed this one down here, unfortunately. I'm not paying attention. I'm not going into my node modules, right? There are malicious people out there that create these. I can't have a talk without having a hacker talk. Like, I got into this world of software and web because of this movie. I'm aging myself, but I'm old in web years. But I think they give you 10 for every year you write code? Or it ages you 10 back, so. But there's malicious people out there, they like to take advantage. And they create these packages that are misspelled, maybe have an extra letter, maybe don't have a letter. You install it not knowing. A junior developer, maybe mid-level, someone that's not familiar with the ecosystem, installs it thinking, hey, this is what I need, and you run into issues. To care or not to care? You absolutely 100% should care about these things. And I know it might seem like, oh, now it's just another thing for me to worry about. Now it's just another thing for me to do. Now it's another thing for me to be cognizant of, right? But you definitely should be concerned about these things because I think the other day, what was it? The NPM something in the NPM registry, but it was like a huge attack, vulnerability attack. Yeah. So yeah, it was big. There's a lot of stuff. So you got to care. And another reason is there's increased requirements for SBOMs. So what do I mean by that? Client trust building. Like if you're building software for someone to consume, you want to be able to give them an SBOM of the stuff you just built. And then they can take that and do what they want with it. They can generate their own SBOM. But being able to have that visibility into the system and the transparency into the software is key, right? Policy recs requirements. Like some companies might have policy requirements where they need an SBOM. Process for older solutions. Old solutions from back in the day, there's probably not an SBOM for them, right? Storage system, not in the sense of like a file system, right? But having a bunch of different SBOMs for all the different types of software, right? It's like a storage system. And then accessibility to the SBOMs. Not accessibility in the terms of like web accessibility, but a client wanting access to the SBOM and requesting it when they need it. So let's generate some SBOMs. We're going to go to the terminal. For this demo that I'm showing, and I'm not live coding, which is good because that'll fail on me. We're going to use Sift. The recommended way to install it is with curl. You can also install it with brew. This is one of the tools to generate an SBOM. Didn't forget about Windows. Chocolatey also. You can use Chocolatey to install Sift if you want to. There's also a Microsoft SBOM tool as well. So if you are really wrapped up in the Microsoft ecosystem, Microsoft makes an SBOM tool to generate those. There's two popular formats. In this one, we're going to be doing SPDX, but there's SPDX and there's CycloneDX. So let's generate some SBOMs. So I'm going to run this command here. It's sift -o, and then just give it some parameters. You give it a source name in my JS project. If you don't give it those two, it'll kind of yell at you, but that's what the SBOM looks like. Really, really hard to read, right? But there's another tool out there called JQ. In JQ, you can run that SBOM through JQ, and you can pretty print your SBOM. That way you can read it, right? So it's human readable at that point. So that's your SBOM for this project entirely, and it's got all types of stuff in there, stuff I don't even understand, metadata, source info, versioning, all of that, right? The cool thing about this too is anytime you install a package, you should regen a new SBOM. And you can set all this stuff up with GitHub workflows and too, like if you push to main or you push to a dev branch, it'll generate a new SBOM and you can have that artifact for you. So we're going to install this Lucide Angular package. It's like I think it's like for icons and stuff like that. You look, you can search for it in your package JSON, and we know it's there. Okay, sweet. It was installed. Let's clear out the terminal, and then we're going to run another SBOM. And I deleted the current one. It's going to run through all of the things, because that's what it does. We're going to pretty print it. And we're going to open it up, and then we're going to search for that package. And there it is. So and we know it's the same because the version 0.544 was the same version that was in our package JSON file. So you can also do security with security, right? SBOM security, and there's two tools that I know of where you can do this. Gripe is one of them. Gripe and Sift are made by the same company. Sneak is a really great tool. If anybody's familiar with Sneak, definitely check them out. I got a handful of friends over there doing really, really great stuff with security and vulnerability scanning, stuff like that. But you can check for vulnerabilities from your SBOM directly in your terminal if you run this command. So it's sift scan dir. It's going to go through. It's using Gripe, and it's going to go through, generate the SBOM, and then it'll run a security vulnerability, and it'll tell you the different vulnerabilities that are still there. So that way you know, oh, hey, these got to get patched. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool tool to use. You can do all this in the GitHub workflow as well. You just set up your GitHub, your actions, scan project directory with Gripe. You generate your SBOM first. Once the SBOM is generated, then you scan the SBOM with Gripe, and then you can just set that with GitHub workflow however you want. So, to recap, man, I'm glad this went as quickly as it did, because we're almost at time. To recap, the stuff matters, right? And if you heard me give my accessibility talks, I say the same thing. Accessibility matters. Performance matters. Security matters. Component visibility, transparency, and disclosure. You want to know what's inside your components. Vulnerability management. Like you just saw with Gripe, you saw that there's CVEs that were in that project, right? CVE, it's a common vulnerability. It helps with managing those vulnerabilities and getting your systems patched. Supply chain security. All of this revolves around the supply chain, right? The code and the UFO, that's all supply chain. In Independence Day, what did they do to get out of there? They injected a virus. The aliens didn't know it, right? It's the same thing. It affected their supply chain. So the mothership, all the children's ships, they all crashed. We don't want that to happen. Collaboration. You can collaborate with companies, you can collaborate with your team, figuring these things out to make sure that you're securing your systems. And then compliance. It's the big one, making sure that you're compliant, right? You want to make sure that you're doing all of the things necessary depending on your healthcare and medical and all that stuff, right? You want to make sure that you're compliant. finance. Here's another thing for show notes if you want to snag that real quick. Like I said, once the video is edited, I'll get it up there. You can also fill out, there's a prize you can win too. So when you go to show notes, fill that out and you can win a pretty sweet keyboard. And you can choose what you want to do. You want to get notified when the video drops, stuff like that. There's also feedback on the Commit Your Code website. So hopefully everybody gives me great feedback for this talk. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I'll close it out with this one. I'm not saying it was the aliens, but it was the aliens. Thank you so much. And I'll be around. I'll be at the Tuxcare booth. I'll be kicking it and whatever.